This is a quick demonstration on how our most recent changes look like in our analysis report. So what we're going to look here now is into a Vmray analysis report. We have here a dynamic analysis of a Latrodectus sample. And even though I guess majority of the audience is already familiar with our reports, I just really like to recover those basic things to also catch up people that are not really familiar with our report yet. So when looking into this report, you immediately see that this is being flagged as a malicious sample, right? So all of the behavior that is being operated, being done by the sample is being classified to be malicious. We can also see it gets added this downloader classification. So Latrodectus is supposed to download second stage payloads or next stage payloads. So we also properly flagged this one here. And we can see the thread names. Well, in this case, it's easy. We already know we're talking about Latrodectus, but of course, if you have an unknown sample, then this is very valuable and adds a lot of information for you. And we also have a specific thread name here because we know it's version 1.4 of Latrodectus. If we go down here to the core part of the report, we can see our Vmray thread identifiers, or in short, VTIs. And Airtrue already covered them before, so it's basically just a scoring system we use to determine whether the behavior of a sample is malicious or it's not, right? But on the other side, as it's triggering on dynamic behavior that we observe during the execution of the sample, it also already tells you a story on the capabilities of a certain sample. So every category and operation we have here are describing a certain behavior that we observe during the execution, which already tells you really a lot of internal information on what the sample is capable about and what it can do and what it actually does, even without opening it in any reverse engineering applications or whatsoever. You really get a lot of information just by looking into this report. If you go down here, we also see the malware configuration extraction, which I will just cover in a second, and also a process tree and the MITRE attack matrix mapping that we have here, some more metadata. And maybe to highlight, all of this information is just extracted out of the sample in an analysis of 2 minutes, right? So just waiting for 2 minutes and you get all of these results. However, what is new and what have we introduced in the past month? Actually, I will also go a bit more back because the Yarrow rules that we have introduced for Latrodectus are already from the previous month. And this month, we basically catched up also with the malware configuration extraction for this family. So we can see here quite a lot of Yarrow matches on the sample itself somewhere. We have Yarrow matches against some memory dumps, and even a specific Yarrow match that indicates this is version 1.4. Then we also, as mentioned, have the Latrodectus malware configuration extraction. And if we go down over here, we can see that we are putting out the most valuable and most useful information out of the sample. So first of all, of course, we have its command and control server URLs, which are respectively also gets added as an IOC to this analysis that can be used for further processing, threat intelligence, and even threat hunting. We extract the version of it. So in this case, it's a sample from version 1.4. We even have the mission IDs that are being basically listed here as well. And then, of course, we have 2 different encryption keys, whereas one of them is used in encrypting the network traffic, and the other one is being used to encrypt the embedded strings. And this is, as mentioned, visible here in the analysis report, but of course, it's also being dropped as a JSON file for further processing if you want to use it. And there's one more thing that I would like to highlight today, which is very juicy information that we haven't shared yet, and it's actually also being part of the blog post that we'll put out in the future. But as we're now looking into this and we explicitly talk about Latrodectus, I'm really happy to basically share this with you already today. Within Latrodectus, we have seen one very interesting technique that is being used to delete the sample after it got executed. And this is a very interesting way because usually that makes post-execution analysis way more difficult, right? So considering you're having an incident or whatever, and you basically take the disk image and you need to do some forensic investigation, the sample might be no longer on the disk anymore, even though the process is still running in the background. So if you capture the memory, you can still basically get a lot of information out of this, but the sample itself is gone. And this is done via a specific technique that uses the alternate data streams of Windows And we have introduced a new dedicated VTI to detect this behavior. So the sample itself makes use of renaming the main alternate data stream of this file to something which is called :WTF BBQ with a so-called deletion disposition. And this essentially means that in the combination with a couple of API calls in the background, which of course we won't cover here because that's usually quite technical internal stuff, but with a specific combination of those API calls in the background, the sample itself manages to set the specific deletion disposition flag. And then once it's basically during its execution and when setting this flag, basically, Windows automatically picks up this file because it's being flagged for deletion and removes it from the file system, even though it's a protected file because it's currently being executed as a process, right? And this is a very interesting behavior that we haven't seen before. Latrodectus actually had this implemented. There's also already somewhere a proof of concept out of this for this technique. But we think it's very interesting to highlight and very interesting to show, because this is a very stealthy way to basically hide the sample itself from doing forensic investigations.